session we are going to cover, you'll be pleased to know that will be all high level for me because we have got our assessor panel here today. So I'll hand directly over to them. So we're going to have a very brief intro and meet the team with new members of our team that a lot of you will not have met yet. So we'll have a quick hello from them. And then we will hear directly from our independent assessors. We'll have a quick look at our signatory support hub, and there'll be time at the end for any questions and answers, or any questions. We have had some questions sent through already, but please feel free throughout the session. If there's anything at all you want to ask, you can pop a question into the chat. You can send it anonymously, or if you're happy to wait to the end of the session, please ask it then. That would be great. So the team, so if everybody would like to say hello, Christine, if you would like to kick off.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many of you here for our support session. And I know, looking at the names and the faces, quite a few familiar faces in the room today. So it's great to see you all. And look, this session is really to support you. We'll be having it quarterly moving forwards. And just a big shout out to Nancy, who has organised it all and set it up. And Nancy joined us back in October and has sprinkled so much magic on Diversity Mark. So delighted to have Nancy in the team. So look, for those that don't know me, I'm the Director of Diversity Mark. I've had the great pleasure of working with so many of you and also our brilliant assessment panel really since 2018. So I learned a lot on this journey, and I'm still learning a lot every day from all of you. And it's great to hear so many stories of transformation. And I'm thrilled now to have two new team members as well. So I'll hand over to Julia to introduce herself.
So much, Christine. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia. I am on week 4 here at Diversity Mark, so very new, but I'm the new head of development, so looking after business development, but also wider development with the team, and really excited to be here today. And I will hand over to Molly.
Thanks, Julia. Hi, I'm Molly Edgar. I'm the new operations executive with Diversity Mark. I joined in January, so a little bit after Nancy and a little bit before Julia. I came from a signatory organisation, so hopefully that means I can help all the signatories with that little bit of insight. I teamed up with Nancy on our engagement strategy, so I'm really excited that we're having this session today, and this is something we're going to do a lot more going forward. And hopefully it means that we can give you a lot of support. And well, I'm looking forward to speaking with you all. I'm sure we will do, Nancy, in the future coming up to our next assessment period in April.
Brilliant. Thank you. And as I mentioned, the real reason I think everybody is here today is we have our fantastic assessment panel. So at the minute, we are delighted to say that we have now 23 independent assessors on the panel. I believe we started off with originally with 4, so 23. Which is absolutely brilliant. And as you know, the panel are independent and they bring a wide range of experience and expertise across the sectors. And they don't just assess the applications. And for anyone who's been through the assessment process, they will know that they provide constructive feedback and really help signatories to strengthen their approach and continue progressing on their journey. And what's particularly valuable about today's session is that you'll hear directly from the panel, and their insights are based on what they see across a wide range of submissions. And they'll be sharing with us what strong applications look like, and how to get there, as well as some of the common pitfalls to avoid. And as I said earlier, there'll be an opportunity at the end of the session to ask any questions you have. So please do take advantage of having them here today. And as they were very lucky, so we've got 3 independent assessors with us today. We have Deb Lang, who is one of our co-chairs. Now Deb was having a few technical issues this morning joining Teams.
I think she's here now, Nancy.
Oh, brilliant. That is brilliant.
Sorry,
I'm here.
Oh, great. We've also got Will, and Will is one of our lead assessors. And also we have got one of our newest assessors, Barbara. And Barbara will be sharing some insights in regards to what her insights have been since she joined us. That she has now done 2 assessments with us, which is great. So look, looking at the list for today and all, I can see there's a wide range. We have got some signatories who are at different stages at the journey. We have a few at Charter that they have just joined us. So a very warm welcome to Diversity Mark. And you have joined at a brilliant time. I'm hoping the assessors will agree. There have been so many improvements in regards to our technology and the support we have available for you. So welcome on board. We have also got some signatories today who are at accreditation stage and are perhaps going for re-accreditation in April. We also have some which it's amazing to know that are going for silver this time. And hopefully there will be some there. There's definitely a few that I've spoken to last week that have gold on the horizon, so which is absolutely brilliant. So as you know, in regards to the different stages, the accreditation stage, there's 3 targets, 3 diversity targets, and they can be foundational targets and all with a gender lens. And first target here should be developing an equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. Silver is a bit more challenging. It is 5 targets, at least covering at least 3 areas of diversity. And in order to consider silver for anyone here that is looking at that today for April, what you need to do, you need to have successfully 2 years under your belt at accreditation stage. And gold is more challenging again. So there's 7 targets there covering at least 5 areas of diversity. And again, for gold, you will need to have held on to that silver diversity mark for a minimum of 2 years. And just for context, we have had in the last 9 years over 200 organisations joining diversity mark, and currently soon to change post-April, I hope, but we have 28 at silver and 3 at gold, soon to be 4. But what the best thing for everybody, if you haven't done this already, is if you are sitting at accreditation stage and looking at silver, read the guidance notes. We have got guidance notes on the support hub, and that is the best way. And you know, we often get asked, do you think we would be able to look at silver? Read through those guidance notes and see. That will give you a steer on where you are and what you can achieve. And there is a wealth of that information, as I say, on our signatory support hub. So for anyone that I've spoken to over the last number of weeks, you will have heard me talk and talk and talk about our signatory support hub. It is really an amazing resource. There's everything here that you need to guide, prepare, submit and progress through your diversity mark journey, all in one place. And for those of you who haven't yet used it, you will find it when you log into your portal, the diversity, your signatory portal. It is along the tab at the top and it's support hub. And in the support hub, there is guidance for anyone new to the portal. We've got how-to videos, we've got the accreditation and guidance notes. We have really starting from scratch how to get on the portal and get set up. What's really important is we have got preparing for submission. So preparing for submission, that will go through that target framework I showed you very briefly there. And really, really important is a pre-submission checklist. Don't be fooled by the name. You don't look at this checklist once you are ready to hit that button to submit. You have a look at that before you even decide to complete those targets. Have a look through that checklist, and Deb will chat through the importance of that with you in a few minutes. But honestly, the signatory support hub, I can't recommend how useful it is enough. And anyone after today's session that would like to book some time in with me, and what we can do is we can go through it together, please just drop me a message. We've also got a great events page there that will let you know all the events that we have that are happening. There's practical toolkits. There's lots of insights. We have previous recordings from previous support sessions. So there's really a wealth of information for you there. And again, it's just found on the support hub. So 3 questions. I'll finish with 3 questions that you should ask yourself before submitting your application in April. And this regardless of whatever stage you're at in your journey. So looking at each target, is the target clear and focused? So would someone outside your team understand it? And it's best to avoid any of your corporate language or industry jargon. The next thing you'd look at is, do you have evidence to support it? So are your targets, are they informed by data? Have you used that data, that rationale behind your target, or consultation? And most importantly, will this target create real impact? So by that target, will it drive meaningful change in your organisation in regards to culture, policy or practice? Who will be better off? And just before we come on this session, I was chatting to Will, one of our assessors, and I had to I stole that line from Will. Will always ask that question, and it is so good. Who will be better off after this? It has to be real meaningful. And as I say, you use those questions to review each of your targets. And if you're using those questions and you're saying, no, it's not clear and focused, I don't have that evidence to support it, it's maybe time to relook at that and rejig it a bit. Okay, so look, without any further delay, I am going to pass you over to Deb, who is our co-chair and who is going to take us through a few points on what a strong application looks like. So Deb, over to you.
Thanks, Nancy. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Great to think that there's lots more organizations out there who are interested in Diversity Mark and signing up and going for accreditation or moving on through the journey. As Nancy has just said, it's important before you start anything to pull up the portal, read all the guidance, and that the pre-submission checklist is not just right before you press the button. It's what you should be thinking about the whole way through the development of your application. So within the checklist, it asks if your application's ready for submission. We need to see that the employee data is updated in the Datables section. And that obviously has to go in the first time that you submit, and then needs to be updated as you go through additional submissions to us, whether that's your annual review for accreditation or moving up through silver. Keep reviewing those guidance notes. The Signatory Support Hub is there, that you've looked at all the videos very early on and used them to help formulate what you're using as your targets. We've got purple guidance throughout the whole application, which gives suggestions and really some good pointers. We'll look at that a little bit later. And that the application clearly indicates the ownership and accountability of the board and executives. One of the things that worries us when we get applications is if everybody involved is in the HR department. We want to see that there's organizational teamwork, that there's buy-in and from the very, very top of the organization, and that there's going to be reporting up to those individuals. So that the whole organization is seeing the benefit of your EDI strategy. With regard to targets need to be measurable. And the metric included in the target name when that's possible. We need to see that there's a clear link between your targets and the vision, values of the business and the business needs of the organization. They're not just targets pulled from thin air or because somebody thought they sounded good. We want to see what the link is to your business. And that then helps you decide what's the impact that you're looking to see. What's the outcome? You'll want to know that all your EDI effort has an outcome and it's not just activity. So, for example, you shouldn't have a target of something like sending X% of the workforce to some type of training. The training might be a very good action in a target, for example. That target could be developing a pipeline of female leaders. The same could be mentoring. Or if you have a problem with inclusiveness or engagement within your organization and you might decide to hold certain events, having X% of your employees attend those events is an action. The target would be X percentage increase in belonging, and you sample that by an employee survey. So we are always looking for, is the target getting at an outcome that is measurable rather than an activity? And we want to see those percentage changes that you've mentioned anywhere in your targets expressed alongside a baseline or an absolute number. So we'll increase membership from X% to Y%, or as it says here, 28 to 25 within a year. So we need to see the baseline. We need to be able to measure if there's enough challenge, because in a SMART target, you're always looking to see if it's achievable, and you always want it to challenge. So you're trying to get those two pieces. And then if this is an annual report or go your first silver, but moving up, we want to see an update on any targets. And if you're discontinuing your target from last year, we would like to know why. What was your learning? And why have you decided to change it? If you don't fill that in, then I'm afraid our sort of cynical brains will conclude that you didn't do anything. So you need to put that in there to let us know why you're changing a target. Action plans. These are you do an action plan for each target. We want to see the dates distributed evenly through to the completion date in chronological order, with the people responsible for the actions distributed across the team. We will be concerned if all we see is HR all the way down that right-hand column, because it's key that the whole organization is involved in this. It's the only way you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for. Next slide, please. Hello?
Yeah, we can still hear you, Deb.
Okay, yeah.
Can we get the next slide, please?
Yes. Next slide's there.
Oh, sorry, it didn't come up for me. Anyway, doesn't matter. I've got it in front of me. So the next slide is the importance of SMART targets. And this gives you the layout for how we like the targets to be. And as I said, they all have to be SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to your business, and that they're time bound. So we've given some examples here. We will increase applications for women from entry roles over the next 12 months from 18% to 30% to help us achieve our ambition goal of 40% women in the organization by 2030. That's a very specific one. The other example is we'll conduct a data and engagement research project over the next year, engaging 35 women to help us achieve our goal of understanding why we've so few women in operational roles. Pardon me. In one such as the right-hand one, we would actually like to hear some of the results. What are the reasons that we have so few women in operational roles? Not just we did it, that's it. We want to hear about it before you then move on and decide what's your next strategy that perhaps comes from that. And the next slide is how it's laid out in the system. And as you'll see, there are purple areas throughout, and that's where I mentioned pay special attention to these. They will provide a lot of help. And it also reiterates here, if the target replaces a target from last year, tell us what you learned that led you to the new target. So the assessor guidance on the SMART action plan, if we could just summarize, directly link your actions directly linked to the specific target. You've at least 4 actions. You've clear milestones with timelines, and then you should be reviewing those regularly within the working group. The work is distributed across the team, and there are no vague statements. We get quite a few of these, unfortunately. Focus on, and then there's nothing for us to measure. We don't actually know why you're doing it. And we'll also challenge things like continue to. So if I could just sort of summarize some pitfalls. The targets are pulled from the air. We don't know why they've been chosen. They're not SMART. So we and you have no way to measure success. They measure activity, like number of employees attending something, but not an outcome. And there's no evidence of support and accountability across the organization. Sorry.
Deb, do you want us to hand over to Will now? Would that make sense? Because you're having
Yes.
technical issues.
Yeah, that was great.
And
Thank
Will's
you, Deb.
sitting waiting in the background there, I know, to jump in eagerly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think Debs has covered quite a bit of this already, but I suppose when we come to conducting our assessments, I mean, I suppose this is the key thing, that's why we've actually tried to provide the framework for targets, because typically we were receiving targets that weren't clear, weren't SMART, didn't give us the activities, didn't provide us with the measurable change, etc. So they were too broad, very unclear, and that's why we've tried in the template now to give you a real structure to that target, to try and lock that down into when are you going to do this thing, how much, what's the percentage difference, what are the actual numbers per difference, etc. So really that whole measurable outcomes piece, and again, it's back to the thing about thinking about this example here about what are you going to tell us in 12 months' time that's different? What have you done? What actions have you taken? And what are you now seeing, really? I suppose other pitfalls really is a limited evidence of leadership commitment. So we quite often see where there is a lot of work, and again, I think Debs has alluded to part of this, where a lot of the work is being done by the HR department, the organizational development department, the E&I department, but really a lack of evidence throughout the submission that it's being supported at a very senior level. And that's not really just a one-liner to say the senior leadership team support this initiative. You would like to see some of those actions being delivered, and the person responsible for quite senior people as well. So again, it's trying to ensure that we can see throughout the application form that there is a senior level commitment in the organization to what you're trying to do. Not just to mention to say that, yes, they're happy with it, really, I suppose. Again, the other thing is that we probably, and again, Debs has touched on this, we don't have enough data or baseline analysis. So people are automatically jumping in to provide a target, provide us with what they're going to do, but they haven't told us why they've chosen that. Where are they getting the data from that? Where are they finding the data? What is their hypothesis for that? You know, so, or a challenge for the organization. So really what we want to see is, where's your data you're using to drive that decision-making process? So where's the data that's driving you to determine that this is a target that we really want to go after within the organization, really? And then again, I think, as Deborah says, one of my particular bugbears, and I think Nancy has highlighted that already, is lots of stuff happening, lots of things that we're doing, but not really telling us what the impact of that. Because I suppose, again, my question and some of the other assessors' question is, so what? I'm quite happy that you list all the stuff that you're doing, but what my next question would always be, as an assessor, would be, well, so what? You've done all of that thing, you've done all of that training, as Deb's talked about earlier. So what? You know, lots of people sheep dip people through training, but what's the impact of that training? You know, we have a mentor program up and running. So what? Lots of places have mentor programs up and running, but there's no impact. So I suppose it's about telling us what you're going to do, but also the so what. And that's as basic as I would say. What is the so what? So I think that's some of our key things that we would say, common pitfalls. And then the next slide really is about how to avoid these really. I suppose again, it's about trying to get the building blocks in place, trying to ensure that you start with strong foundations. So back to some of our previous conversations is around gathering the data, gathering the evidence, gathering the information, because that then should drive the decision making. I suppose that's what we want to see. How is your decisions being determined within the organization? So why have you decided to work on that particular product, service, initiative? Why have you introduced a mentoring program? Why do you think a mentoring program is the thing that you need to introduce? Where's your data? Where's your information on that? So again, it's not just about finger in the air stuff and deciding, oh, that would be a nice thing to do. Yes, it might be a nice thing to do, but what I'm interested in as an assessor is, why is that the nice thing you've chosen to do? Where's the data that's driving that decision really? And again, I think Debs has touched on this. It's not an HR thing. That's again a typical fable, I suppose, or feeling of some of the applications, that when we get an action plan in play, that lots of the actions are just attributed to the HR department or the HR business partners. Again, this is an organizational accreditation process. We want to see the whole organization bought into that. So we'd like to see lots of people involved in the actions. I suppose again, it's about progress, about making sure it's not just about meeting the minimum. So your target really should be the minimum data set you're trying to achieve. What we're trying to see is how you driving that change, how you moving that dial on where you currently are, and how you measuring those outcomes, demonstrating that measurable outcomes really. Again, it's not about staying static, so we don't want maintenance either. So we want development, progression, forward thinking, how you progressing this, and lack of, again, back to lack of progress might just be that it is the wrong initiative you've chosen, but that's okay. Tell us it's the wrong initiative. Again, I think as Debs has said, say it's the wrong initiative, why it's the wrong initiative. Maybe it's just not driving the results that you've intended. And then why are you changing it to something else, really? So as I say, it doesn't matter really if you don't achieve target. What we're really trying to say is, if you don't achieve a target, you need to tell us why, what's happened, what's your data telling you. So you might have put, as we said, training, mentorship program, initiatives in, and you've tried all this stuff. It just hasn't worked. And that's okay. As long as you tell us it hasn't worked, as long as you've determined and shared with us the data that has demonstrated it hasn't worked, and then tell us, what are you doing next? What have you learned from that? And what are you going to try next, really? So it's again back to the evidence of the lessons learned. So I suppose for us, our job primarily is to be probably really, really pokey for a reason. We want you to succeed. We want it to be successful. We want it to improve. And so that's really why we are really pokey about things. But our job is to support you and help you, not to criticize. It's not to, say that is primarily to support you on your journey and to help you as much as possible, really. I suppose the key thing is, I always think about Simon Sinek's golden circle, about you need to tell us why you're doing the thing, what and how you're going to do it, really. So your link, I think, again, as Deb says, is why are you doing this? Not just plucking it out of the sky. What's your data saying? What's your evidence saying? Where are you getting that hypothesis, really? And the targets being supported by the data. There's no point saying you're going to drive it by 25%
Sorry
if you don't have the
to
data behind
interrupt.
that, or you're not
Sorry, I'm having real problems. Will you keep dropping out, and I'm missing a lot of the meaning of some of the stuff you're saying, and I don't want to get
Yeah,
any
it's a
more
wee bit
confused.
a wee bit jumpy.
Sorry.
I wonder if you turn your camera off, Will, would that help? I don't know whether it's maybe whether it was mine or yours, but if
Yeah.
that sounded like Mary that spoke there, maybe it's an issue with your internet.
Thanks, Will. Thanks. I just don't want to miss anything important.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you perfectly. Perfect.
So yeah, I think it's again back to the targets need to be supported by the data, and that data may be data you're currently collecting, or it may be data that you're going to have to collect to provide the evidence, really. So that's the other thing. If you don't have the data at the minute, it's about how you're going to gather that data, how you're going to evidence the target for us, how you're going to demonstrate to us that you've achieved that outcome, how you're going to evidence that so what, really. And again, a level of curiosity is really important in the organization too. So, you know, back to Deb's thing, you've chosen a target because you believe people are leaving, because, you know, you feel that people are underrepresented, but why do you think that? Where are you getting that evidence? Where are you getting that information from? So it's trying to always use your evidence and your targets to drive that target, but also to demonstrate the impact, the so what, really. And again, for me, it's about, I suppose one of our other key things is about if you are a global, I suppose one of the things I did think about when I was considering this is if you are a global organization or national organization, it's really important to talk about the local data and the evidence through the local data, not just your global, because again, quite often we can sometimes get data in that gives us the global organizational picture around some of the targets. But what we're really looking for is what is your local data? What are you trying to achieve locally? Either in an office, in a particular site or a particular area, or within NI, really. It's you really need to tie down your data to that, really. But next slide, I suppose, Nancy. Can you still hear me okay? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, all
perfectly
good.
well.
All good.
Okay. So again, it's about retention, and I suppose a key bit of this is about how do you keep your assessment or your award, really. And I suppose that's about how, for us as assessors, how your organization is developing and growing on your targets. So as Deb says, you might have achieved everything within your target, but what's the next step of that target? What's the next achievement? What's the next why? What's the next how you're going to do things? So it's always about building on those, telling us what you've done, what you've achieved, what the outcomes have been, but then how you're going to progress that target, how you're going to add to that target, develop it further. Are you going to improve your percentage even further? Are you going to attract more into the organization? So it's about how do you develop that, both retaining your accreditation, but even as Nancy has described earlier, how do you then progress onto your silver and gold? How do you progress onto 3 targets, into 5 targets, into 7 targets for your goal? You always constantly thinking and being curious about your journey moving forward, really. And I suppose that's the key thing. How are we moving forward with this? How are we progressing our targets? How are we being curious about the future? And again, I suppose the key thing is about ambition. What is your ambition within the organization in terms of the diversity that you have within the organization, and what are you going to do about that, really? So Nancy, that's
Yeah, look,
mine.
that was brilliant. Brilliant.
Apologies,
Well,
folks, for the sound.
no, look, that was perfect there. Well, thanks so much. Barbara, as a new assessor, would you like to jump in with any comments that you've found as your experience since you've joined?
Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. And here it is, the first signs of spring, and I've woken up dosed with the cold and with a sore throat this morning. Look, I mean, it's been a really comprehensive presentation this morning. I'm aware we need time for questions. And I guess really my impression, I've only done one set of assessments so far, is, and I knew this was how it was, but it was lovely to be part of. And really, I suppose, to give organisations this morning just real reassurance around the process that goes through. The assessors are absolutely committed to diversity and inclusion and supporting organisations. And there has been some really healthy discussion amongst groups when we're looking at the submissions, and everything is about being there to support and help. And I think all of those practical guidelines that have been given, it was for me, it was a brilliant day to be involved in, and from that supportive space. So I think if I just leave it at that, maybe leave time for questions.
Brilliant, brilliant. Barbara, thank you.
I'll get my tissue again.
I have got a few questions that have been sent in prior to this, which is great. But does anybody have any questions now that they'd be happy to ask? Now that you've got the benefit of having the assessors here.
I think there's one in the chat there already, Nancy.
Oh,
Do you
brilliant,
want me to read
Christine.
it out?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's what is the expectation to the renewal of accreditation? So if somebody's already accredited, how is the expectation different from the first accreditation level submission? Do you want me to take that, or I can give that to maybe Will or Deb?
I'm happy to grab it.
Yeah.
Assuming I don't
Brilliant.
start coughing. I hope maybe I don't know where I got this.
We're all dosed today.
I know. So obviously with a renewal of an accreditation, we want to know what you have learned and how you have moved the dial in the last year. We don't expect perfection. And as Will has said, you may have discovered that it wasn't the right target for you, that it wasn't giving you the outcome that you were seeking. But we want to hear about what you've learned, how you have moved the dial, where your thinking has changed. Are you resetting? Maybe you met your target and you're now ready to move on to the next challenge. It depends on your targets, but we want to know how the dial has moved and what you've learned. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
And just to add something there as well, Deb, that was really helpful. But your first accreditation application, so if an organisation joins us and are working on their first accreditation, the first accreditation is really about commitment. And your first 3 targets can be the foundational targets to get you the data you need to move forward. So those 3 targets can be, the first target is always to, as Nancy mentioned before, to develop your equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. And the second 2 targets can be the foundations for your building blocks for the future, to give you those answers that you need for year 2. But really, retention is about the progress, isn't it? So first application is about commitment, and then retention each year is about your, as Deb says, your progress and what you've learned.
Okay, and there's another question that was sent in. So how can smaller organizations demonstrate impact with limited resources? Is there anyone would like to pick that one up?
Well, I suppose I'll speak, having no camera on. I can maybe
Thanks,
speak as well
Will.
here. I think again it's back to being real about what you can actually do within the resources you've got. And again, as long as you've explained that within the application, we have many organizations that don't have large volumes of staff or large volumes of people working on this type of work. But as long as, again, you have an ambition within the organization to grow it, no matter how small it is, it's the achievement of the growth and the development and the moving forward really within such limited resources. So we see it all the time. We, as I said earlier, we have large global organizations who have lots of resource, both in terms of people and finance and equipment, etc., that can do lots of stuff. But we've also very small signatories that do really good work in their world, really, with limited resources. Again, I think it's just about being ambitious within your organization, ambitious enough, I suppose, within the organization, but also having really realistic targets. It may take smaller organizations a longer period to get to the place that they want to get to. But again, for me, as long as they're breaking it down, chunking the targets down each year and the renewals down into smaller targets, smaller actions, achievable outcomes, and working through that, I don't think the size of an organization that will necessarily impact too much. We can still, the assessment and the accreditation is the same, no matter whether it's a large organization or whether it's a small one. I think it's the key thing is to have ambitions, have targets that are realistic and achievable for your particular organization with the resources that you have.
Brilliant.
And if I could
Will.
if I could just jump in there. We can also help buddy you with other small organizations if you want to try and pick brains for what has worked within other small organizations. But it's also about thinking you don't, for example, need to have a third party do a big engagement survey or actually incur a lot of cost. Perhaps having a working group, or if you've got 25 employees, getting everybody together to sit and brainstorm and talk about this with someone leading the conversation and executives there and all the levels of employees. So it's trying to think of ways to get your data and define what your real problems are, and it doesn't have to cost a huge amount of money to do that in a smaller organization.
I know I know some of the large, sorry Nancy, I was just going to jump in quickly and say I know some of the large organizations are frustrated at the minute that it might seem as if they've all this budget, but actually they don't. That, you know, some of our larger signatories would get frustrated because the perception might be that they have all this budget and resource, but actually their budgets are very, very small. Sorry, someone's just put in workshops, small pulse surveys, Q&A, and let me see, yeah, Q&A sessions, and you know, utilizing those enthusiastic and positive people in your organization that will volunteer and get involved, and also storytelling is a powerful
I was even going to say that, you know, some of the stories or the bigger organizations that we have visited, you know, some of the most impactful work they've done is storytelling, and they have not needed big resources to do it, which is great. Is there anybody else, any other questions before we finish up? Or even any other comments?
Sorry, Nancy. I know, I think Orla King from Danske Bank's here, and Orla are actually one of our 3 gold signatories. And Orla, you've been on this journey from the start. Have you any very quick words to add? Just putting you on the spot there. I think you're here.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Can. Oh, thanks. Orla.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose really just reflecting on and repeating what some of the others have already said, I suppose data has been hugely important for us. Colleague networks have been hugely important to us. Back to your point just there, Christine, in terms of just leveraging people who are natural allies, because that is so powerful and it takes it out of HR. And the other piece again is storytelling, because people are interested in people and want to stand in their shoes and want to understand how it is to stand in their shoes and want to support them. I think that's the biggest message for us. So I think those 3 things for us have been the biggest piece, obviously with support from your leadership as well. It really, really helps.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Orla. I think Mary, you have a question.
Yes, thank you very much. Just in the back of what was said earlier on, I mean, yeah, we've undertaken a Valuing Voices staff survey, which is helpful. But you mentioned there the storytelling. So my question is the storytelling and the surveys and questionnaires to identify your actions, or I suppose you could do that, or you could also use them to see if the actions worked. Is that right?
Was that question for Orla there from Danske Bank, Mary? Or
I'm not sure. Maybe you or anybody really.
Do you want me to kind of step in terms of our experience? I think it's a combination of everything, Mary, to be honest with you. I think, you know, there isn't a formula and it works differently for different organizations. So, so the data is very important, but I think talking to your people and understanding what's important to them is probably the first step that we took. We had an idea, we understood data at a high level in terms of what the numbers looked like. But I think in terms of talking to your people and understanding what their issues were, what they would like you to focus on is absolutely for us the way forward, because that wins hearts and minds. They can see that you're listening, they can see that you're doing things, you're starting to shift the dial, and then the data can come in the back as almost like a side project where you can collect the data separately. That certainly worked for us, but I think every organization is different.
And thank you very much.
Mary, one of the other things where I've seen it being very useful is if some of the leaders in the organization get up and tell their story with a focus on aspects of DEI, their own personal experiences, a child issue, a caring for, they're alcoholics, who knows what everybody has something. And if they get up and they start breaking down the barriers about talking and being open and being, yourself at work and being able to bring that into the office or into your workplace. It has huge benefits, and they're intangible in some ways, but it's breaking down that barrier. And then actually you might be able to collect the data.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the storytelling really helps with buy-in, doesn't it? Throughout whatever it is that the person shares.
Yeah.
You know, it's powerful, you know, it really does have such a
It
big
improves the
impact.
whole sense of, it improves the sense of belonging within an organization, which is what you're really trying to get at in my mind.
Yeah. Thank you. That's been really helpful. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, look, I think we're coming to the end of the session today, but look, just a quick reminder before we finish, you know, everybody, don't forget, if you want to follow up or one-to-one, you know, just get in touch. I will, at the end of the session today, I will share, if it's helpful, the slides from today and also the recording. And don't forget all of the support that you do have in regards to the portal, the Signatory Support Hub, and everything that is included with that. If anybody feels the need, I know that Debs and Will both mentioned the diversity mark bodies. If you would like the opportunity to buddy up with another organisation, just to hear their story and their take on things, get in touch. We can arrange that. We do these sessions every quarter, which is great. And there's also the opportunity for anyone who is not part of the EDI Leaders Forum to get involved with that. On the Support Hub, there is a sign-up form that you can have a look at that. And again, don't forget to check out our events page, because there is a lot happening over the next few months. One, which is our Multicultural Women's Network. And don't forget, any of these events are available not just to you, but to your whole organisation. So please do share them with your colleagues. And just a reminder, so our next submission window is April, and the portal will be closing on the 30th of April. I believe that is a Tuesday for any submissions. But as I say, look, please do get in touch before then if you need any support. Mary, do you have a question there?
Yes, I'm afraid I'm back with a bit of a bugbear. Can you please remember the Northwest? Most of the events are in Belfast, a lot of them breakfast, which isn't always possible with carrying responsibilities, etc. So I would urge you to try to diversify. And when we can find you space on Coleraine campus and Derry Londonderry campus, etc., if you need it, because it's not fair for us up here always having to trug down to Belfast.
Yes,
Thanks.
no problem. Look, we'd love an excuse to get a trip up, Mary. So that would be great. That would be great. Thank you. But look, anybody has any other questions or want to ask anything privately, just get in touch after the session today. Christine, did you want to finish up with anything or any final comments?
Just thank you, everyone. I mean, it was a high-level session today, but hopefully it's been helpful and gotten you thinking about something that maybe you hadn't considered before. And just to mention, you know, that we're all about impact. You know, this is we're not a commercial organisation. We're all about impact, and we're really, the assessors would see themselves as critical friends. And they'll challenge you and they'll push you, but they'll encourage you. And really what we do here from those organisations that maybe have been with us 5 years plus is that push and that challenge has really been transformational for them and added so much value. So, you know, our assessment panel will work with you. They want to support you and help you, just as they said today. So just please do, you know, utilise the new support. We've invested £90,000 in the new technology now, so please use it. And the more data we can collect, we'll be able to give you brilliant insights as well in terms of Northern Ireland, or wider than Northern Ireland, in terms of workforce demographics that we've never had before. So please do get onto the portal, upload your data in terms of your gender age breakdown table, get that uploaded, because that'll really help us, and we'll be able to give you all those stats once we have sector specific data and everything. So that's all coming soon. And again, thanks to the team, because honestly, a brilliant team at Diversity Mark and a brilliant assessment panel as well. And thanks to everyone for your commitment, really. So
yes, thanks so much, Debs, Will and Barbara, for, you know, volunteering and giving up your time this morning, because you do so much behind the scenes. It's not just the assessments. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you all. That's
Thank
really
you.
great. Thanks.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Thank you. All right. Take
Thanks
care.
so
Bye.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.